Good afternoon, everybody, as we go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 4:11 on October, what is it, Mary? 27th. I have executed the advanced auto signature. Our beautiful set brought to us by my dear friend and incredible painter, John Simpkins. The portrait of his loving canine friend, Chaya, the poodle. And as I have today, my new friend and fellow associate of the Oregon Substitute Teacher Association. There I can see myself. Wonderful. Wave, Mary. Okay. And then just remember, let's give them the high quality audio. You want that to be as close as you can, really. Right. That's about it. And I just want to do my characteristic shtick introduction. My name is John Deschler. I'm a globally published commercial photographer and an exhibited photographer and a working musician, bit of a filmmaker the last 4 or 5 years, and now the proprietor of this humble space, the Mount Angel Theater Studio, beautiful downtown Mount Oregon. Whole nother show and conversation there. Now what I need to do, as I often do with these things, is turn the volume down on my phone so that I can go to this live stream right now. Oh, and there's Mary with her beautiful, I love this dog, Willow, I do. I just want her to be chill. And now I hit the copy link, and now I can go to my Facebook and post, just capitalize live. Dot, and post the link. And this is how we might actually end up with 1 or 2 people. And I can do it at the same time to my personal Facebook page, which is John Deschler. Are we friends on there?
I'm not sure, but maybe or not.
And the Mount Angel Theater Studio Facebook page.
Yes.
I have 4 Facebook pages.
A lot to teach.
Or 5. I really only service about 2 or 3 of them. It's a wild, wacky, modern, wonderful digital world, I suppose. And so now what I could do is I can literally, if I spin, I call this housekeeping. This is what they would call housekeeping. So one of the things I could do is go to, see, these are all my groups in Facebook. So I'm going to repost the thing that I just posted there with this link to the YouTube live stream. And I think I'm going to look because I have a number of substitute teachers support and resources. It's a national Facebook group. And then I'm going to press, what am I going to press there? No, that's not what I want. I want to paste live. Now, there, dot. Okay, sorry folks. When you're in a small town maximizing modern technology with like-minded, good giving individuals, copy, you just have to sometimes, and I'm going to do this a couple times so that maybe it's plausible that we do get a little bit of exposure. And people may allow it and people may not allow it because sometimes they don't allow you to repost on certain Facebook pages. And so, proud to be a substitute teacher. Proud to be a substitute Shig-a-dig-dig-go-go-gee. Yeah,
We
good
need
for
some
you.
lyrics.
Yeah.
We need some
Anyways,
lyrics.
so there. All right. So I put it out there. If you want it, I could text it to you, and you could text it to anybody you wanted to right now, your daughter or whatever. Here,
Oh, the live stream.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to text. Oh,
Oh.
shoot. That's the wrong one. Hold on. I got to go back here. Grab it again. Copy that.
Can I text the final?
Yeah, of course. But I'm just saying. I think this will work for the recording or the live stream.
Gotcha.
So,
You haven't texted me
so there, I just texted it. And it looks like everything's working from here and from there. I'm so glad that Mary decided and was willing to come back again. She had a good time last time, and we had already discussed her coming back before we found out that I was foiled by some of my ancient technology and my ignorance. And on the last video we did, I should go in and, if I think about it, in the deep recesses of winter in the next month or two, I'll go in and rename it the Ghost Interview.
The ghost, yeah.
Because what ends up happening is after about 10 minutes, this camera number one, it produced the picture that you see here without the two of our bodies here while we were still talking, and it was almost comical. And I'm glad you appreciated it. And but we were going to carry this on because she has a lot to say. We both have a lot to say about the substitute teaching experience here in Oregon, and we both had a lot of that experience at this stage of the game. And Mary, I would like to add, is a very interesting person with quite a background. She has a law degree,
right,
and she's one of apparently something that's a very rare thing, which is a female American football standard and flag referee. There just aren't that many female officials or referees. Are there any female referees anywhere in the country? Do you think who actually do pro?
No, not the white hat.
So
there are some.
Somebody's got to do
elevating
that, right?
College. They're getting there. It's a slow process, as you can imagine. But we are seeing, as female officials, we are seeing more women coming, signing up, joining us. And we have an active group now, I think of at least 185 to 90 female officials. And
in this country?
In the U.S.
Okay.
That we know about, that are part of the group. There might be more that aren't. But for those of us who are in, it is an incredibly supportive, safe place where we can talk, ask questions without feeling dumb, sounding dumb, getting talked about as being dumb.
And you primarily do college and high school?
I do high school tackle, I do youth tackle, middle school tackle, and I'm involved at the college level, which is not an on-field position.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to that later as we discussed.
Okay.
One of the things I wanted to do, that was part of your introduction, and I'm glad you've done some reintroduction, I'd say. And, but how long have you been subbing in Oregon?
I have been subbing for 5 years. This is my 5th.
And did you get, I can't remember, you have a restricted license or?
Yeah, I have a restricted substitute teaching license.
So do I.
I'm not, my college major was not education. I wasn't licensed as.
We're exactly the same in that way.
Yeah, teaching.
And we're a year apart, by the way.
Yes.
So
you can't say what you're, how old you are, because I try to kind of keep that on the download in football officials.
Only ones who know me well will have any clue.
Right.
And so, because I went in with the sub-service provider that I started with, I went in to do all that original coursework, sign up, orientation. I can't remember what it all was right now. But that was the summer of 2019.
Yes, I was spring of 2019. I
Okay.
applied to, I call them a staffing agency for substitute teachers. I applied for the job. They invited me to what I thought was an interview or orientation.
Right.
Well, it was an orientation, all right, because they hired me. They had basically already hired me, and the only one that didn't know was
Right.
when I got home, the phone was ringing with jobs.
Wow.
And so I called the company and I said, well, am I hired? And they're like, yeah. So there you go, right?
Wow.
It was also unpaid orientation, as I later learned from the Oregon Substitute Teachers Association, which we call OSTA.
Right.
We refer to it that way.
Right.
I learned I was supposed to be paid for that orientation. It never was.
Well, I should go back and check my records. But I so did not become a substitute teacher to spend time administering BS.
Correct.
And I've spent way too much time in my 5 years, administering BS because of, in Oregon, you should be aware, folks, there are direct hire districts. There are only about 2 districts in the state that, as substitutes, we can be participants in. I believe that's Beaverton, Portland, maybe Eugene. I don't know. But something like that, just a couple. And in my case, I'm not in any represented by. There is no option for me in my rural, excuse me, districts. And so we can work directly for a school district. Most of the school districts all of the school districts in the state operate as independent businesses or entities. And they get to kind of really run a lot of roughshod over their own decisions, and there's not a lot of oversight, sadly. We'll get more into that later. But the alternative, which has occurred in the last, I think it was in 17, by my recollection, that the sub-service out-of-state for-profit businesses that are, as Mary said, employment staffing agencies. I call them out-of-state for-profit sub-service providers. And one of my contentions has been traditionally and continues, I've seen no reason to disbelieve this concept, is that Oregon is an interesting place because it's very large physically. The population isn't that large at about 4.5 million. There's half of the people exist in this Willamette Valley I-5 corridor, and the other half are spread out over a huge area. So there's this geographical reality that overlies and is on everything, I think, that we have to acknowledge and understand and kind of appreciate. It makes certain things difficult, I'm sure. But nevertheless, these sub-service providers come in with their sales pitch, I imagine, and a lot of software solutions and some concepts like a panacea, like we're going to help you with that shortage that you think you have. How are they going to help them? They're not really, they can't materialize any more substitutes in this state than any district can, because it's not like any of them are going to say, hey, we're paying $100,000. Well, there was one district in the last year in Eastern Oregon, I think it was Baker City, that way raised their pay of either first-year teachers or substitutes or both, really to try to attract some new blood to the territory, if you will. But generally speaking, that doesn't happen in a state like this. It's not Hollywood. It's not Manhattan. You don't get people coming from all over the place to be all these different kinds of things. You're dealing with the human resources and as well as the environmental resources that exist. And so my contention has been that the advent of these sub-service providers, which came in to represent software engineers who created a pseudo software solution, I almost think that's an oxymoron these days. More on that later. But it's just been put in place almost with malfeasance that they allow them to be here because, and I'm sorry, I'm a little long-winded, I know, but I'm getting ready to come right back to you. Mary and I were speaking, visiting here for about a half an hour or so before we got rolling, and it had been a minute since you were at the annual meeting?
Yeah.
I was so busy, so tired, but because I had started something by then too, and
Yes.
but that as a sub, it's a very, particularly in the state of Oregon, as a what do you call it, a work for hire or
For profit.
no. The status that we are at will
At will employees.
at will employees.
Yeah.
Puts us in a very, very, very vulnerable position with everybody. We are the lowest hanging and easiest fruit to mess with, to target for anything, from students, staff, and I would submit others, principals, administrators, et cetera, et cetera. If one person misunderstands you or sees something that they misinterpret or whatever, and my issue has been that all of the modern research says that what the best learning environments are those that are close knit, have some familiarity and intimacy, and I think you should be able to, like I can tell you now, how many districts are you working in now that you were working in 5 years?
There's probably more. 2, 3, 4.
All
Five.
five, all 5 years?
It's 6 now. No, I've added and subtracted districts.
So how many, which
active
were at for the whole time?
Total 6. Well,
no, I mean since the beginning.
Well, I started with 2.
So are you still with those 2?
Yes.
Okay, that's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, 2.
I started with 3. I had an issue with 1. I'm reinstated with that 1. But I still haven't gone back there because I don't trust those people. So but I am still with those 2, and I've added 2 more that are independent. All of these are the providers.
Good. Yeah.
So it's a very diverse landscape out there. And as I watch some of the comments on some of the Facebook national substitute pages or groups that they have, boy, my heart goes out to a lot of people, young beginning teachers, young beginning substitutes, substitutes walking into the kind of reality of the situation very blindly all over this country. That's going on. And I'm sure you experienced that as much as I did. Because the bottom line is, we don't get much hands-on with us. We don't always get even the phone number of who we can call or someone we can talk to. So it's a very vulnerable and exposed scenario that we work in Oregon substitute teaching, and intensified, if you ask me, because of the diversity. So all of yours are with providers, or none of them are direct?
None are direct.
Interesting.
And that is something.
But you were talking about that.
I learned from Asta that there are direct districts. So now it's up to me to determine where they are.
Find the ones that you'd be willing to drive
to. Yeah. I'm not super willing to drive too far because of Portland traffic. So far, I've been able to stay in my community or the next town down.
Exactly.
The more rural districts, which I prefer. I've enjoyed more. Hope to do more work there.
So, you were at the whole Austin meeting, which we had at Chemeketa, I think it was now maybe 3 Fridays ago, on the 11th, I believe it was, of October, perhaps. OSTA, the Oregon Substitute Teacher Association, of which I'm the current vice president, has been around since 1975 and is getting ready to come up on their 50th year anniversary. And the founder, God bless her, is still with us. And some other exceedingly exceptional characters on the core of that board and membership. And I'm so rooting for us to make some good moves to substantiate and fortify the organization, I suppose, moving forward, so that we can all be sure that there will be in good hands moving on, because it has done a lot of work. Just to not to do this too much, but the minimum pay rate that we have in Oregon, which is relatively high nationally, is because of OSTA. The being paid for a half a day or a full day, I believe, is because of OSTA. And on our website, you can go see any number of other things in statute over 50 years that OSTA and Phyllis and Sally Sue Sellers have all been accomplishing, for the sake of Oregon students and Oregon substitutes. You should all know and be aware of whether you're a substitute, a parent, or just a civic member, that is to say, a citizen. I'd like to bring a new vibe to the term citizen at some point through this whole effort of mine here at the Little Theater, but that that we all have a responsibility to speak up and pay attention and manifest greater and greater functionality of health. That's my position. And that's how I approach the teaching that I do daily. With OSTA, OSTA's been working at the legislature. It's been working in the legal Bureau of Labor and Industries areas, TSPC, Teacher Standards and Practices Commission, ODE, Oregon Department of Education. We just wrapped up our treasurer and government liaison or governmental affairs chair, Debbie Ferry, has just been participating in the wrap up of the governor's task force on substitutes that we've been putting on. You can find the record of all those task force meetings, by the way, at the OregonState.gov website. And so Mary and I both support that work, because I think we both recognize that there's some really good people who've done that now for so long. They're just such stellar characters with high commitment capacity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the meeting went pretty well. I don't remember what all the final numbers are, but I feel like we had about 30, 35 on site, and maybe at least twice as much at some point online. And we had some nice guest speakers and decent little meals. We do this all on membership dues, which are skimpy. We're just in the process of starting a Friends of Austin nonprofit, which hopefully will make it so that we can start spending a little bit more money on some of these things, so that we can build membership and presence in the community. What was your overall takeaway from the meeting, or your impression? Were you at the one last year?
I attended last year's meeting by Zoom.
Okay.
And this year I wanted to go in person.
Excellent.
The people that I had
so
talked
glad
to.
You did.
OSTA does what they call office hours on Thursdays.
Every Thursday at 4:30 on Zoom. The link, I think, is on the website somewhere. All you got to do is email us.
Yeah, click in. which is what I did, and met everybody on Zoom.
Which is a great thing, right? I mean,
Yes.
in lieu of anything else.
Well, what we lack as substitutes that we don't get from our employer, we don't have a group that we can just go to talk to about.
Don't move
happened.
away from it. When I move it, no, just move
I just feel like it's
move to your right a little bit and just relax. No, you're okay.
I want the wireless one. No. As substitutes, we get supported within our school community, wherever we are. We are there enough to develop relationships.
Right, to some extent.
To some extent.
Acceptance.
But when we have problems with our private sector employer, we have nobody.
Nobody.
And it's a pretty lonely walk.
Exactly.
So to bump into the OSTA group, and the way I did is I met somebody outside at Estacada Middle School where I subbed, and they told me about OSTA. I was like, wow.
And was that before or after you had any
incidents? Yeah, it was before. And when I had an incident, I realized I need to talk to.
Dude, for me, it was the other way around. I had my incident, and then I found Austin.
Right.
Blessings.
Yeah.
Sally Sue answered the phone.
That was me
and
too.
Helped me begin to see the light. I use that description very loosely. Yes. But
well, my takeaway from attending in person was connecting in person. And at the meeting, I volunteered and was elected to be a member at large.
Thank you so much.
Not even sure what.
Thank you so much. Just be a friend to them for now.
Yeah.
And if we need you to do something, I think that's what that will be.
Well, I have a plan. What I really want to do is make a flyer, put it in the lunchroom of all the schools I go to. Because, we have.
But what we need to do is we need to do that statewide. We need to make 50,000 flyers and get them to all the substitutes we know and to every school secretary we know. Say, can you please put this in your lunchroom, et cetera, et cetera? Because this is a very valuable organization for the state. The state doesn't even quite recognize how valuable OSTA is. Some of them do, but most of them don't.
I don't think they even know.
A few of them do.
The legislators know because they've
been
getting contacted a lot.
A few of them. Yeah.
But what I've learned by being a member of OSTA is the Teacher Standards and Practices Commission, and I've had my own experience with them, is basically worthless. They cannot produce.
Certainly seems that way.
For OSTA, a list of all of the people who have a restricted substitute license. They can't parse that information out, or so they say, which is suspect and surprising.
How much of the task force do you watch? Any?
I haven't because I haven't had.
But I'm sorry, I'm going to talk for another minute because that's a tip of the iceberg what you said there. And I can talk about this now because it's on the public record, which is if you go and watch the governor's task force on substitutes that occurred this year at the Oregon State Legislature, and you watch the Zoom meetings, most of them were Zoom meetings. A couple of them might have been in person, but most of them were Zoom meetings. You slowly start seeing, and I'm going to say something right now too. I'm on the brink of being in a zone that could actually get me in more hot water in saying some of the things that I'm going to start to say. And I'm going to just say that I know that, and I kind of accept it. I don't really accept it. I understand it, and I don't appreciate it. But I have to speak my truth, because I'm 61 right now. I've seen a lot in my life. By the way, this is Willow. She's been laying here very calmly and quietly, and I love her dearly. She's a beautiful dog, and she's going to be part of another little story that we might tell later. But she's been laying down there out of camera, and now she's walking around, and she's a good girl. Good girl. But the fact of the matter is, I have proof. You have proof. We all have proof now that the ODE, the TSPC, the districts in this state are fully uncoordinated. I think it's safe to say it that way. And the lack of data that legislative, the office of the legislature that collects data, and I can't remember what it's called. I had it for a second and it left me. The Office of Legislative Services or something like that, which was serving the task force, right? There were umpteen times when they went through some of their reports that they just had to say, no data available. Now, see, I'm seeing a sign, so I'm going to go over there and see what that says.
To interact with the computer here.
Yeah. Your battery is running low.
Uh-oh.
How is that?
Plugged in, not plugged in.
I must have pulled something out or something. That and that. Oh, there it is. It came out of there. Okay. And wave your hand. No, too late. Gotta wait 2 seconds.
That's scenery.
Okay, everything's still working, folks.
When I look over here, I'm not looking over
Thank you so much.
I don't know who to where.
I had a notification. I've since refined. I had my beautiful younger son, Andrew Deschler, in town this last week. Thank you again, Andrew, for helping me.
Thank you, Andrew.
In the due diligence of reconfiguring this particular setup, and the plug on the laptop wasn't quite. But it did not foil us. It didn't cut us out. Make us ghosts again. So again, this is a whole do-it-yourself reapplication of a space in a unique place, a town of 3,500 in the northern center of the Willamette Valley that has a rich history, and I got to say, a rich history well before the white man. And I honor and respect that. But
what do you call it? Where Mayberry meets
McNeil-Lair in PBS NewsHour in Mount Angel, which is a bunch of M's, right? I think we call that alliteration.
Alliteration, something.
Yeah.
Like that. We might have taught that.
And but back to the subbing and the what were we talking about? The lack of data.
The lack of data.
So we have all these politicians, I support politicians. I support the EPA. I support middle manager bureaucrats who we put in place to protect things that we all supposedly care about. But not when they don't do their work.
Right. Well, it's surprising to me. This TSPC, this agency, collects a ton of money from us to license us. We provide all the information they need. I don't know how much they.
All they do is collect our check. They collect our background check.
And yet they can't.
And then they issue us a license.
How many substitute teachers are there with active licenses? Where do they live? How many are men? How many are women?
How about retired teachers?
I think Debbie Ferry got some data about the ages of some people. They figured that out. And truly, it should be an Excel spreadsheet for. Oh, there's that other.
A bunch of different ones
that you can manipulate. And collect data. But there's no reason.
So it's I don't know. Where did you grow up again?
I grew up in Seattle.
And I grew up in LA.
Okay, I was a product of the Seattle public schools. So when I can't do math, I attribute all of that to the Seattle.
I grew up in the LA Unified School District of the 60s and the 70s, and I think there were a lot of good things about it, and some things not so good. But overall, I think it was pretty darn good.
I think.
And
my high school was a very good high school at the time. I think it's okay now. We had lots of levies that failed. And there was a teacher strike. I was like, in high school, we were concerned whether that was going to impact football season. the coach could or could not coach the team for the game dates, because it happened right before school was going to start.
Well, that brings up the big elephant in the room, right?
Right.
Funding.
Funding.
Funding. What do you
Money.
fund? You fund the DOD.
Right.
You fund the this, you fund the that. Are you funding the baby's brains that are all about the future?
I like that.
There's a whole societal conversation we're probably not going to be able to delve into too much here today, but we will do that later. But I did want to point out, as we were giving a little bit of a review of the 2024 annual OSTA conference in Shemeketa, which we would like to build membership and attendance for moving forward. We had one filmmaker guest speaker born out of a passion project, which I thought was very good.
Excellent.
My friend Jim Gilbert, about conservation of land. Imagine that substitutes would maybe care about that and see the metaphor in it.
The farmland,
Yeah.
the agricultural
Yeah.
land.
The open spaces.
In Oregon, because as you pointed out, it's either it was the number one industry in the state of Oregon for high-tech. I think it's still number two. It's still way up there.
It's up there. And, but it's about everything. It's about, that subject to me is about the experience, that there is some open spaces, But regardless, we had him. We had another woman, I don't remember her name. She worked for a company that I think she might have been the president of or something. And they were talking about strategies. We had a little bit of technical challenge on that one.
Yes.
With the Zoom call in and all that, mental note to ourselves.
Right.
Maybe better just to have in-person presenters to bridge all of these technological gaps. Oh, I got to tell you, and I'll tell you, this is for those of you watching right now, you're the first to know. You're gonna be the first with them too. I'm gonna have the painter as a guest.
Oh,
I'm gonna put a flat screen TV in the red chair. I'm gonna have a laptop with him on a Zoom call, and I'll have this still going, and his screen will be facing there. So I'll have a flat version of him live talking with me.
Nice.
I got to technologically figure that out, make sure all the sound goes into the right places so that everybody can hear. You see what I mean?
Yes. I put my phone on haptics, vibrate. So I need to stop it because it's distracting me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That sounds cool because this painting.
And then I can have other people pipe in.
Yeah.
I have friends all over the world: Jakarta, New Delhi,
nice.
Tokyo, Germany. It'd be kind of fun. See, Mayberry meets McNeil Lair and Mount Angel on Stu Rasmussen and John Deschler's, my dead friend and partner in this space, who created it in much of the configuration it's in now. That's the humble little thing I'm just going to try to do and continue to have these authentic conversations. And if you'd move again back this way, you see, then you
see how I am.
Keep improving your mic contact. But so we'll talk more about that. OSTA, we're both supporters of OSTA. I'm going to start having more OSTA members in this red seat. I had Phyllis Kirkwood, our founder. She did a great job at, I think, 88 or 90. She's older. She's older.
We can say that, right? Or is that not?
I don't know if it's
is that
PC.
Ageism?
I don't know if it's PC, but she's senior to us.
Yeah, well,
and
definitely.
She started the thing in 1975, so that's what, 50 years ago.
And it's honorable.
I think she was at least 30 when she did that. So, anyways, we'll have more of that, and you can go to what is it? Is it Oregon Subs or OSTA Subs? Oh, darn it.
Back to the phone.
I should have had that memorized. You can just Google OSTA, Oregon Substitute Teacher Association. Oregon Substitute Teacher Association. Isn't that horrible?
Yeah, you're the vice president.
I need my glasses. Ostasubs.org. I knew it was something like that, but it was just, I got too much on my brain right now. Yeah. Ostasubs.org. Wonderful organization. If you're an Oregon teacher or substitute, please help us to spread the word that we exist. Because, as Mary said, it's a little bit lonely out there, and we're not a union, we're just an association, but we can support each other, and we do.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, we could segue a little bit to one of our really symbiotic, mutual, later life experiences of this, of some of these very sad things that we've seen in Oregon education, like the subservice providers that separate us from the people who are really hiring us and are technically the ones managing us if they choose to, as an adult person, as opposed to just another commodity on a shelf. Do we have that? Do we have those, are they a person or are they just a robot?
Or placeholder.
I
right?
think
We're coming in to a classroom. We don't know their names.
Or
we
a
don't
babysitter.
know what the deal is with them. And
particularly if it's our first time in that school
in that
or
school,
that classroom.
I mean, it's very much
every classroom, every school, every classroom. Yeah.
And I had a principal at a school say to me, "There's a certain kind of person that could do this job, and it's somebody who is calm, who is zen, who can go with the flow, because you're asked to do all kinds of things, and you can't be inflexible." And there are lots of subs. When I first started, I would come into school and I'd hear the subs like at lunch, they didn't even have a lesson plan. I'm like, that had not happened to me. And the times that it did, another teacher was like, okay, hey, this is what you can do. They just took time with me to do that. They didn't have to. But I think the people that complained were the ones that were just like completely inflexible. And you just can't to like this job, to thrive at it, to deal with it. But our employer doesn't do nothing.
They just write our check. Those sub-service providers. In my case, again, I work for 2 districts direct.
Right.
So I have multiple employment configurations to perform the simple task of substitute teaching in my local 5 rural districts. Even that to me seems to be malfeasance. And they go around complaining about a shortage.
Correct.
How are you going to complain about a shortage if you don't create a semi-attractive environment, reality, configuration of work to work in?
And that's why OSTA is advocating for the creation of an Office of Substitute Teachers. And I think the whole overall hope is the districts will go back to hiring, training, and supporting the substitutes rather than relying on an outside party
and building that
to do it.
Intimate connectivity tissue within their district and their school.
As you said earlier, the districts were sold a bill of goods, a dog and pony show that this was going to solve their problems forever.
Software panacea, I want to call it. I'm going to write a song. The Software Panacea Rhapsody. That's what we've all been.
We've been sold a bill of goods
for 30 years now.
There's an app that can do everything.
Yeah,
but there's
it's
not an app that can vacuum my house.
It's not
there's not an app that can.
Okay, did I tell you?
Not even the robot vac.
Did I tell you about the robot?
No.
My son, he was visiting with his rep. He's a legislative assistant on Capitol Hill in D.C. and he's out working with his rep, having some meetings with the assistant director of the science office at the Department of Energy. And she hails originally from Eugene. So she and the rep were going around visiting various industry people in the rep's district. One of them was a robot manufacturer company, literally. I saw the pictures on his phone. Humanoid-ish, techie robots that they're making in a place somewhere near Salem Airport to do what? Be Amazon warehouse work.
Well, they've had those robots in Amazon.
Not that one though. These are not the humanoids. Not the
These
humanoids.
are the humanoid. Oh, great.
I mean a humanoid just in the design.
Right.
You know, the bipedal, is that what we call it?
I don't know.
I think we call it bipedal. You know, a standing talk. I don't know if they'll talk, but they'll stand and walk and do like that. And so it's yeah. I mean, and that's where we're collectively just going with the sales pitch. It's like the guy with the snake oil and selling you a bill of goods. The fossil fuel is the way to the rage of the future. Well, yeah, but it also had some big downsides. Oh, the smartphone, the iPhone, the flat screen. No, there's some good things about it, and there's some really bad things about it. And I'm so over it with the kids. I talk to them. I love it when they say, when there isn't a lesson plan, or when they say in the lesson plan you can do what you want to do or whatever, because I'm a big improviser. I like to improvise. And I like being challenged by the idea of trying to literally, on some level, and you can tell, you can tell, hook the kids into some thought strain or vein or weather system that they're not used to seeing or being in. And it's a little bit almost like a sport for me, but it's also a little bit of a real challenge because I live in and service in these rural districts where these kids, I will say they're all different. All these rural districts are a little different, ethnically, socioeconomically, all these different ways. But the one thing they have common is they're all these small, out of the way little districts. They don't have the benefits of a big urban area. It's a different kind of a reality. And so I feel like one of the things, because I've spent so much time in my life in big urban areas doing big urban things, performing music and doing photo shoots and all these different things, and because I've been a lifelong learner, that I can try to stimulate them a little bit with something, a perspective, a way of thinking, a way of speaking that they're not used to. I consider it a kind of just a thing that I should do because I feel like I can, and that they should have it, and they don't get it that much out here, right? Because they have limited resources in subs and teachers, people who maybe don't have as much life experience as either. And not that that's a bad thing necessarily, but for teaching, I think it's a better thing if you have a pretty enriched life experience, whether that's education and experience, different kinds of education, different kinds of whatever it is. And that's what I feel, and I always felt since that first time we talked, that we both did share that, and that willingness and interest in trying to share that in places that maybe it isn't uh, that diverse in the thinking.
Well, and that brings up a good point, because I came into education late in life, like I said, 5 years ago. But I've had the benefit of a tremendous education in my personal life, my work experience, my professional experience, everything. So I look different. I interact with the school differently and the kids differently
than the teachers
because
do.
of that.
But particularly the retired teachers who have become subs.
Yes.
Those people, absolutely.
I admire them.
Love some of them.
I'm learning a lot from them.
Yeah.
But the kids themselves, I do kind of the opposite. I'm with a lot of urban, so they don't have any concept of outdoors,
right.
Of the outdoors, of nature,
Mother Nature,
of geography, of
terrain,
of different differences. I mean, some kids are fairly well traveled based on where they might have come to this country from a different country. So I'm doing that in my substitute
Same difference,
teaching.
doesn't surprise me.
Yes.
Something I was going to say earlier, growing up in LA, it was always kind of a funny thing that we would say, and it seemed to be like just a known quantity that the Pacific Northwest, or maybe particularly Oregon, Idaho, always felt a little bit like they were 20, 30, 40 years behind California.
Oh,
maybe,
yeah.
Maybe 20, similar from Seattle too.
Seattle too. No, we were very provincial. My brother-in-law used to say, "Oh, the provinces," because he was in San Francisco, right? Like San Francisco and LA might as well have the Red Sea.
Right.
It just doesn't.
Huge.
There's no collective experiences. LA, they're all down at the beach. San Francisco is a very high-minded, artsy, intellectual, cultured place.
Theoretically, but there's a gazillion people, so there's everything down there, much more diverse. But what they don't have in those areas, in those places, is small communities, which is what we have up the wazoo up here. Even I would submit to you in your suburbs of Silverton or of Portland.
Portland. Well, and I live in
Troutdale, Sandy, Happy
in
Valley,
right?
Estacada, all these areas out.
Right.
Yeah, right. They're all connected. They're part of the metro area.
Yes, and that was the urban growth boundary.
Willow, please do.
That was the urban growth, the whole theory of the urban growth boundary. And I heard Tom Clark talk about that.
Bud Clark?
Not Bud. Tom was he was on some urban planning commission in the city of Portland back in the 80s. Okay. And he's like, this is going to be great because we're going to draw a circle and we're going to have all the urban growth inside the circle and all the rural growth outside the circle. So it won't just be one strip mall. Right. I'm not sure how successful that was because I'm seeing in Gresham.
Well, I think the pressure's on.
There's tons
nationally, there's housing pressure.
Yeah.
Particularly affordable housing.
They're not building affordable housing.
And there's a lot of issues out there.
It's not. It's.
Sadly, we don't have time to address them all here and now.
Yeah, it's multifamily. But one thing I wanted to tell you, I did in one of the schools I sub in, which was Fairview Elementary. Oh.
Say that one. I want to try not to mention any names.
Oh, whoops. Yeah. Well,
It's okay.
It's okay. It's a school in Fairview, Oregon, which is a part of the Reynolds School District. And one of my high school friends, a ex-NFL football player, ex-college football player, after he retired from playing football, he went through a series of personal hardships and challenges, change in his life. And at that time, the NFL did not prepare their players for what comes next. Afterlife. They just didn't. They do now. So he got into mountain climbing, and he set as his goal to climb all of the world's 7 summits, the most prominent mountain summits. Wow. The last of which was Mount Everest. Wow. Really incredible. We both grew up in Seattle, shadow of Mount Everest. He was playing football. My family went skiing every day. So we literally passed batons later in our life. I'm involved in football.
Oh, that's
He's up in the mountains. I never wanted to be a mountain climber. I was perfectly happy skiing. Ride the lift to the top of the mountain and ski down. Wow. So I arranged for him to come and talk to the 4th graders at this school. Oh, that's the international one.
10 minutes more, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, I arranged for him to do we did a Google Meet, and he talked about and showed these kids what he did, where he went to Mount Everest, how he got there, how he came down, let them ask questions.
As a substitute, you were able to do that?
Yeah, I was. I talked to the one of the 4th grade teachers.
Was that just because the logistics came together well? He was around?
Well, we did the Google Meet, so
Oh,
he and I were in touch.
oh, I see.
We were in touch
Oh,
by
that's
email.
fun.
Oh, it was amazing. It was just amazing. Not only for me, just because I knew.
Was there a camera for him to see the whole classroom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and they all saw
fun.
him, and they could ask questions.
Nice.
And they asked him things like hilarious things like, "Did you get paid to do this?" And then he said no. And they said, "Are you rich?" And he said, "No, because we know as adults you have to pay a ton of money to even get a permit to be admitted to Nepal or Tibet."
Just even to engage in sports like that, you gotta have
and the
some
training.
resources.
I mean, he is a beast about training, and his message to the kids was, "It's the process. You set a goal, and you embrace the process
So
to
you
get
accomplish
there."
something.
And that's what he did. And NFL Films filmed the whole journey. Of course, I can't remember.
Wow. They did a documentary on his effort as a retired NFL player.
Right.
Love that.
And they won an Emmy for it.
Excellent.
So he said, "I didn't get paid," but he reaches across the desk and says, "But I got this Emmy.
Wow.
I got this award."
Wow, that's cool.
It was so
Is it
cool.
available? Can I watch it?
The film, yes. I'm going to Google.
Can you send it to me?
Yes.
And then I'll post it somewhere?
It is.
Because
incredible.
I'm accumulating these good cause films.
Yes.
That are made by people so far that I know.
Yeah.
So if you know them, that's close enough. I mean, so I love doing that because that's like leaning into the modern deal to try to make a positive contribution.
And these kids are not outdoorsy kids.
No.
And
a lot of them are.
One of the kids in the class, we were talking about the Mariana Trench, which is in Southeast Asia, South Pacific, somewhere. And the trench itself is as wide as
Grand Canyon
wider
or something
than
like that.
The height of Mount Everest. Wider than that. And that's what sort of piqued my interest. I thought, oh my gosh, I need to contact Mark and see if he would talk about his climb. That's how I fused it together. And he was gracious, so gracious to do it. And Mark's sister and I were classmates. He was the younger brother. And I got a chance to see her. Actually, we hadn't seen each other since graduation. We got together last June in Seattle and just had a blast. It was just like the years had never passed. We just picked up where we left off, caught up.
That's sweet when that happens. Brings up another near and dear subject to me, which is old friends. And what's happened in our society to make it so that on one hand maybe we can maintain some contact, but on the other hand, how it doesn't necessarily foster that. And it's not just about the technology, it's about what's going on in people around the technology, I think is what I'm reflecting.
Yeah. Do you think we should take a break and
Well, I think what we'll have to do is end this particular live stream today, and we've gone for almost an hour, I think maybe 50 minutes or something like that. And so I think we can just close it out by saying that undoubtedly we'll do this again. Maybe I can get it to the point where I can do it without even having to come down.
Oh, but I love coming to Mayberry.
But so we would have choices. Choices are always good, right?
Choices
and particularly throughout the winter.
Yes.
Where it might be a little bit harder to. We're in Mount Angel. We're about what did it take you? An hour?
40 minutes to an hour.
40 minutes to an hour. It's about 40 miles from downtown Portland.
Yeah.
It's only 40 miles. Willa?
Now,
out.
This is our rule.
So no. We want you to take good care of yourselves throughout the changing season. We've had a particularly beautiful extended fall, spectacular fall this year in the Willamette Valley. Happy to report it. Very happy I had it because I had a ton of emergency yard work I had.
Oh,
And so I've been able to get that mostly done. I've begun to sub. Now, are you subbing? Let's just quickly, are you subbing full-time right now, part-time? How much time?
Subbing as much as I wanted, which is 3 to 4 days a week.
And I'm going to try to shoot for 4 to 4.5 days a week. This moving forward in the next few months, maybe this whole year, if I can manage to take care of myself at 62 while doing that and all of this.
Right, and that's the balance.
That's the tricky part.
As you know, I do football. I do a lot of other things, Oster, football,
Exactly.
regular housework, live.
Exactly.
So
dog walking.
Yeah. So it
is tricky.
I try to balance it.
Yeah, and we're both not spring chickens, so I'll just put it that way. And I found out last year that I could easily overextend myself. I got sick. I caught some bugs this last year. I'm going to try to get some shots. Have you had any shots? Not yet. I usually get whatever the COVID booster is after the football season because I have a reaction. I don't want to miss that. This is football season. I'm going to try to get a flu and an RSV. I guess I've got to get the RSV too. I think I'm going to. I'm not sure all that. I'm going to try sometime soon. It's tricky because doctors kind of keep school hours on the one hand. We're busy, Well, Walgreens is pretty good. Oh, okay. Source. That's where I get the pharmacies they're giving. Okay, yeah, I got to know. I have a little legacy office right over here. Yeah. So usually not too bad in terms of the traffic or lines, So anyways, we're here at the Mount Angel Theater Studio. I'm here with a dear new friend, Mary Harvill, fellow substitute and thoughtful mind. And we're here on Sunday, October 26th. Is that what we said? 27th in the afternoon. And we've had the lovely Willow, who will be talking about probably more later, one way or the other. And we will come back and do this again in the next couple weeks, maybe. And meanwhile, I'm going to start having more guests, and I'm going to start doing more solo live streams. Excellent. As I move into my interior wintertime operation, which will be all focused on subbing and this little theater. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm kind of looking forward to the ability to just kind of focus a little bit. Yes. And hunker down. And that's kind of what we do here in the Pacific Northwest in the wintertime, one way or another, whether you make it doing puzzles or crosswords, building something in a shop or whatever. So anyways, I want to thank you again. And thank you so much for coming out. And soon, no, you just stay put. What I have to do is I have to do the DIY thing. We don't have the technical production staff. No staff. Don't have it. In fact, we don't have any funding yet. No funding yet. But this winter, I'm going to be working on a lot of things that plausibly could begin to move us into the direction of having some very humble and mild and modest funding. So let's wave goodbye. Bye, everybody. Where's my hand? There's my hand. Bye-bye. And thanks for coming. And hope to see you again real soon. This is all brought to you by John Deschler in the Mount Angel Theater Studio in beautiful downtown Mount Angel, Oregon. Feel free to leave a comment, subscribe, join, thumbs up, and just help us engage in some very authentic and responsible conversations about contemporary life and society. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. That's great. Yes, yeah.